Hello. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Anna Imagination. I'm going to be talking about names versus labels. I go over this in my bullying segment where I talk about invalidation and labels, but I really want to dig into what the difference is between a name and a label because it's really important. So, one of the things that I love talking about when I discuss names and labels is Shakespeare's What's in a Name? That which we call a rose by any other would smell as sweet. And it wasn't until I started doing my research on identity that I realized the difference between a name and a label. So, a name is something that you call yourself, or it's a title that you give yourself that reflects your authentic self. A label is something that comes from the outside, and it is somebody else telling you what they think your name is. That's really the only difference. So a label could be something as simple as somebody calling you a name, whether it's derogatory or mean. It doesn't have to be derogatory or mean, but it is a word that's been provided on you that does not properly or accurately represent you. That is a label. Now, the problem with labels is every time we are given a label, our first response to a label is we reject it because it's inaccurate. We have a huge thing inside of our entire systems, inside of our brains, of cognitive dissonance. We have a problem with contradiction. We have a problem with things that don't make sense. And our initial response to that is to make sense of it, to categorize. This is why we categorize, to try and figure out where things belong, etc. So when someone comes in with a label, it actually contradicts our name because it's not accurate. If it was accurate, then it would be a name, it wouldn't be a label. So you have somebody who is very sensitive and very standoffish when it comes to categorizations, boxes, and labels is because that is somebody who is trying to find themselves, or maybe they have found themselves and they're very familiar with what they identify themselves as. I'm going to say that word again because it's really important. What they identify as. Identity is part of the word identify, and that is all about your name. So when someone comes in with that label, whether it be, oh, you're polyamorous or you're monogamous, or oh, you're married or you're single, oh, this is your boyfriend or your girlfriend, if you don't identify with any of those terms, it becomes a label. And that system inside of us goes off saying, this is inaccurate, this isn't right, and this doesn't feel good. That's because you are rejecting the label. Whereas if it were your name, then you could adopt, you can wear it, and it's very much a part of your identity. It is a huge part of your identity, is knowing what your name is. One of my favorite moments in The Hobbit is at the end when Bilbo is talking to Schmog the dragon, and he starts going through all of his many names, including Barrow Rider. And that to me really, it's a beautiful moment because we have more than just your name, the one that's been given to you at birth. We have a lot of names, and knowing all of your names is the process of finding out who you are and going through your life. This is living. As also part of names in general is there are cultures where you're not given a name until you earn one. Other cultures, it's not until you are 12 or 13 that you get your name. Other cultures, you're 18 and you around that age and you do some great defining act where you can say, this is my name. And then there are other cultures where they step forward and they assign their own name later. There is a huge psychology that just surrounds the concept of name and who and what we are, and it becomes who and what we are. Now, the problem with given names is when you're born, your parents assign you a title and name, which reflects what they want, what they think is attractive or nice or pretty, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with our identities. It is just a thing or a label, actually, that your parents assign to you at birth. And then you're given a family name in the United States where that tags you as this is the kin where you belong. The problem is if you're in an abusive situation, if you're in an abusive home where you don't connect with that kin, suddenly your name, your last name, your surname becomes a reminder of what you don't want, or it reminds you of that abuse. And it doesn't properly reflect who and what you are. This is where you suddenly become lost, or you could start to develop feelings of not belonging anywhere because you lack a name. My own name, Anna Imagination. These are names that I chose at moments of my life to reflect properly who and what I am on the inside. They are part of my identity. And once I came into those names, they formed a huge understanding between myself and who I am. And it solidified me. It gave me a place to belong. And it's very powerful stuff. But if someone were to come along and ask me for my surname or my real name, that's where I run into complications because for me, that is a lie. It's a falsehood. It's an inaccuracy. It doesn't properly depict my truth. And that's really, really what we're talking about here is your authentic truth. So, and don't limit yourself to what to just your given name. You could have many names, many titles, and the more of these titles and names you accumulate, the more you round out your identity and you get a better feeling for who you are and where you belong. And that is a huge chunk of your identity. So the other thing, the huge part with label versus name, is a name validates you, a label invalidates you. A label supports your truth. I'm sorry. A name supports your truth. A label takes away from your truth. When we are given names as children, I'm sorry, labels as children, as mocking and teasing, it takes away a little piece of our identity. It breaks it away and it suppresses it, especially if you reach a point where you adopt the label as your name, claiming, well, everyone calls me stupid, therefore I must be stupid. Now you've taken that label and have merged it as part of your identity. But that isn't you, that's their label. That's what they call you. People with genders where they identify from a different gender are people who view, in their case, certain genders as labels, and it takes away part of their identity, and that's not what they want. That's not their truth. So they change their pronouns, they change their gender, they change their sexual identity so they can better identify with who they are and what they are, because it authenticates and validates their truth. That is what a name does. That is what a title does. So I don't think I have anything more really to say on this. Thank you so much for joining me. My links are below. If you like, please share, subscribe, like, and as always, may the kindest of words always find you.